So, last semester, in my computer science class, I had an interesting situation happen to me. It was presentation day, and a fellow student and I decided to go into class a little earlier. We were one of the first students presenting our work to the class. So we decided to do just that. Came about 15 minutes earlier. This guy was going ahead of me, so I sat down, let him organize his stuff. He opens his backpack, pulls everything out, his paperwork, his drives, etc., getting ready. I'm sitting there watching. As he finishes that, he looks at his desktop and he notices there's just a desktop there. The monitor's on the complete opposite end of the room. The keyboard's nowhere to be found, and he starts panicking. So after a few minutes, he decides, okay, let's run around the room, grab the stuff, organize it, and he does it. But he realizes he has no idea what's going on. He simply takes each plug or wire, if you will, and tries putting it in a random hole of the computer and figures out that doesn't work. After a few more minutes of him attempting it, he gives up. At that same time, I'm sitting there in pure disbelief. How is an individual going to be in a computer science class but not know how to assemble a computer? I found that extremely ironic and quite embarrassing. So that is exactly why today I'm going to demonstrate for everyone how to assemble a computer. That being said, let's begin our demonstration. Now the first thing you want to do before you assemble a computer is take a few things into consideration. The first being your workstation. Where are you going to set up your computer? How much room will you have to set up your computer? How big your tower is going to be? And your second issue is safety. The biggest thing that happens with computers is people bring liquid near them and they spill it. Now, if anyone has ever spilled water, for instance, on a keyboard or a desktop, you will know that you're most likely going to fry it. And it's not usable anymore, which usually ends up having to be replaced. That's pretty expensive. So, now that we have taken those few things into consideration, let's begin the demonstration. So for now, we have the two major parts which I will be demonstrating how to assemble. The desktop, which is basically like the brain of the computer, where everything happens. This is where, think of it as a central hub. All the components here, this is where all the information is output, and it is displayed on your monitor. Nowadays, monitors come in two different options. Many of our HDTVs we have can also double up as computer monitors because of ports in the back called HDMI ports, or high definition multimedia interface ports. What this does is it allows us to simultaneously display audio and visual from our desktop to our computer in high definition content. The technology is fairly new and it's great. So let's do just that. So, as you can notice, here's my HDMI wire. There are two different ends. If anyone can see this, the larger end plugs into the back of the TV, and the smaller end plugs into the back of the computer. The holes are pretty self-explanatory as far as noticing them. You simply plug this in. Anyone can see this? Smaller end, right here. And the larger end, right in the back of the TV. And we have our visual setup. Now we can get our picture displaying to our computer. The following step is our peripherals. We have two different kinds. Our keyboard and our mouse. Now think of the keyboard and the mouse as brother and sister to a computer. They both do the same job, but they do it differently. They both input information into the computer, which is displayed here through our monitor. So, upon grabbing these, you can notice that both the keyboard and the mouse have a similar device at the end. This is called a USB device, or Universal Serial Bus. The nice thing about these devices is they attempt to simplify our lives by reducing the amount of wiring one has. And you can find them in many of your chargers you use today, like your iPod chargers, phone chargers, camcorders, etc., etc., etc. The technology is new and it's great. So, That is why it is considered a standard for today. Upon doing that, they're very easy to plug in. The white ends facing in, you plug them into the back of the desktop. Now typically desktops you'll have in the back of them about 3 to 4 USB ports. Some have 4 or more, and then sometimes you'll also have some in the front. If you can see here, 2 in the front. Now, the reason I am plugging these 2 in the back is to keep the 2 in the front as a sort of ease of access type device. Meaning, you can plug in your iPod, your phone, something effortlessly, you can remove it at any time. No issues there. And you keep the back to where you plug in all the hardware. So, we'll do just that. You plug in one end, it just slides right in. The other end slides right in. Now the thing to be cautious about computers is if you're trying to plug something in and you swap it out, put it in again, and it doesn't go in, do not force it in. Because that usually results in damage. Damage that sometimes can be permanent and cause your parts to malfunction or simply not work. That being said, let's move on to the final part. Here we have our headset. Now, if you look at the ends of the headset here, we'll have 2 different green tipped wires. I'm not sure if everyone can see them from back here, but one end is green, the other end is pink. The green end is for the sound of the computer to be displayed or output through the headphones. The pink is for communication, or the microphone, where you speak to the mic, you hear it through your headset. So, as far as the back of the computer goes, you'll have the corresponding colors, pretty self-explanatory. One end goes in as such, green matched with green, pink matched with pink, and that is simply it. You have your headset. Now, the very final part of the demonstration will be plugging in the power supply. Now, if you are wondering why I'm doing this last, what you normally won't hear is when you have your power plugged in first and you have all the devices set up afterwards, you have a pretty high percentage chance of getting a power surge in your devices, meaning you have too much power sent through one device, which usually causes it to fry. So, you have everything connected first, you plug in your ends, one end that goes into the computer, the other end that goes into the TV, or the wall, simply for power. As such, and then obviously you have this end plugged into the back of your wall, and you have the same deal for your monitor. Now remember I said in the demonstration earlier that you have 2 different kinds of monitors, HD TVs or standard monitors. They both can double up and do the same job. However, they're different, they come in different sizes and shapes. Like the same end into one hole, and the other end, 3 prongs, into the wall. Now that being said, I've demonstrated for everyone here today how to assemble a computer. Told you a little bit about what each part does. I've told you a little bit about how to plug in each part, and now we'll move on to the final part, troubleshooting. There are 2 issues that usually will come up for someone who plugs in a computer. The first being you press the power button, which is usually located on the front, and no power comes up. The reason this can happen is if you look on the back of the computer, which I'm not sure many of you can see, you'll have a small switch that has 2 ends, one white dot end and the other end will be blank. If you turn your computer on and no power is running, that means the end, the kill switch, has a white circle, which means power is completely cut off. You want to flip it to where you have the line facing inwards as such, and then you'll have power correctly running through your computer. The second issue that one may have specifically pertains to an HD TV. You'd be surprised how often this comes up, but it does. Let's say you have your computer, you turn it on, everything's running, have your TV on, but you get no picture. It's a simple mistake. You simply want to make sure you have your channel on the correct one, your corresponding HDMI channel, for instance HDMI 1, 2, etc., etc., etc. That is it. I've demonstrated for you all today how to assemble a computer. I hope that your lives will become easier and none of you will have to end up like that poor boy or girl in a computer programming class, clueless and the laughing stock. Thank you very much.